Welcome to another deep dive. I want you to start by picturing a very specific high-stakes scene,
Okay, set the stage.
right? So imagine you are a chief commercial officer at a massive consumer packaged goods company. It's Monday morning.
Oh, the dreaded Monday morning review.
Exactly. You are walking into the most critical review meeting of the entire quarter, and you have invested millions, I mean literally millions of dollars into data infrastructure, analytics teams, cloud storage, machine learning software, the works.
You've bought every tool on the market.
Right. Yet there you are, sitting at the head of the conference table, waiting 2 full days for someone to manually update a spreadsheet.
It's painful because it's so common.
And while you wait, out in the real world, the market is actively moving against you.
It really is the ultimate modern corporate paradox. I mean, you have every possible piece of information somewhere in the building, but in that specific room, at that specific moment, you are completely flying blind.
That exact nightmare is our focus today. We have a really fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive.
Yeah, these are great.
We're looking at a collection of brutally honest industry memos. They focus on CPG data strategy, the realities of machine learning operations, and this massive, often ignored gap between data science experiments and actual product delivery.
And I have to say, these memos do not pull any punches.
No, they really don't.
They point directly at a systemic failure in how large enterprises handle their intelligence and, the immense operational drag it creates.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to explore what these sources are calling the death of the dashboard era.
Good riddance.
Right. We are going to dissect something called the data island graveyard. And ultimately, we want to understand how turning all this fragmented data into integrated decision systems is the ultimate competitive advantage for leadership.
It really is the only way forward.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have the data, the servers are humming. Why is the C-suite still waiting on spreadsheets?
Well, the core issue outlined in these memos is what they call a disconnected reality.
Disconnected reality.
Yeah. And as a former C-suite insider, I can tell you that the problem is never, ever a lack of data. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Companies are completely drowning in it. But the data exists on isolated islands.
Right. The sources explicitly say these large CPG companies are sitting on more data than any human being could possibly read in a lifetime.
Easily.
But they lack actual decisions. So let's make this tangible for a second. If I'm launching, say, a new brand of nitro cold brew coffee across the country, what does this disconnected reality actually look like in practice?
It looks like total fragmentation. Think about all the signals you need to track that launch.
Okay.
Your point of sale, or POS data, lives over here on some legacy server owned by the retail partner.
Right, so that's one island.
Exactly, that is one island. Then you have your media spend data, like how much you are paying for ads on TikTok or Instagram.
Which is crucial for a new cold brew brand.
Crucial. But that data lives on a completely different island. It's probably managed by an external marketing agency in New York.
Okay, so that's 2 islands.
Then you have supply chain constraints, warehouse inventory, store performance, and hyper-local consumer behavior signals.
Wow.
Every single one of these is a distinct, walled-off ecosystem. They simply do not talk to each other.
And the corporate solution to this has created what the memos brilliantly call the dashboard industrial complex.
Oh, the dashboard industrial complex.
Yeah.
It is just madness.
It really is. You get a dashboard living over here for regional sales, a totally separate vendor login over there for supply chain metrics,
Yep.
a media analysis locked away in one specific marketing team's weekly email blast, and then my absolute favorite target for criticism, the traditional consulting model.
Ew, let's talk about the quarterly strategy deck.
Please, let's tear this down because it's such a classic trap.
It is. Leadership feels totally overwhelmed by the fragmentation, so they basically outsource the synthesis.
They throw money at it.
Exactly. They pay a massive premium for a major consulting firm to come in, spend 3 entire months analyzing all these disconnected islands, and build this massive, beautiful 100-page strategy deck.
And the tragic punchline is the velocity of the market.
Right.
Because the exact moment that 100-page deck gets printed, it is completely obsolete.
The second it hits the printer.
It's just a snapshot of a moving train taken 3 months ago. You are literally paying millions of dollars to find out what happened last quarter.
Which is nice to know, sure.
But it doesn't help you figure out what to do with your nitro cold brew inventory tomorrow.
Not at all. And consider the expectation this places on leadership. When you have a vendor report here, a dashboard there, and a stale slide deck sitting on the conference table, the business leader is fundamentally forced to act as a manual data assembler.
Like they're just putting together puzzle pieces.
Exactly. Think about the immense, entirely unnecessary cognitive load this places on you as a leader.
Right.
Your chief commercial officer didn't get to that position because they are world-class at copying and pasting from 5 different Excel files into a master pivot table.
You would hope not.
No, they are there for their strategic judgment.
But the disconnected reality strips them of the ability to actually use that judgment.
They just don't have the time.
Right. They spend 80% of their energy just trying to figure out if the numbers on slide 4 of the consultant's deck match the numbers on the internal inventory portal.
Precisely. They are doing the work of a software integration layer rather than actually leading the commercial strategy.
Okay, so if manual assembly is paralyzing the C-suite, the obvious assumption is that our massive investments in AI should be fixing this.
You would think so.
I want to put on my engineering pragmatist hat for a second and push back hard here.
Go for it.
I know for a fact that large CPG companies are hiring brilliant, incredibly expensive data scientists.
Oh, absolutely. The best talent.
So let's say my data science team just spent 3 months building a highly complex machine learning model, a neural network that predicts out-of-stock scenarios for that cold brew coffee with 95% accuracy.
A great model.
They did their job. The math works. So why am I still waiting on a spreadsheet for my Monday morning review? Isn't this just an IT infrastructure problem, not an AI problem?
See, that's the misconception. It is an organizational failure, specifically a massive handoff failure.
Handoff failure.
Yeah. Your data scientists did do their job, mathematically speaking. But this brings us to one of the sharpest critiques in our sources.
Okay.
The data scientist finishes that 3-month sprint. The model achieves 95% accuracy on historical data, and they utter what the memos call the 3 most dangerous words in enterprise AI.
Oh, I know these. The model is ready.
A model is ready.
Gives me chills.
But the text forces us to ruthlessly interrogate what ready actually means in most of these companies, because it definitely does not mean ready for the business to use.
What does it usually mean then?
When a data scientist says the model is ready, it usually means the model lives in a local repository. It is running exclusively on that specific data scientist's high-powered laptop.
Right, not on a server.
No. It relies on their highly specific, custom-configured Python environment. It needs their personal login credentials just to scrape the data.
Oh, wow.
And it is being fed by a completely fragile, duct-taped data pipeline that basically breaks if a column header in an Excel file changes from uppercase to lowercase.
So it's essentially a brilliant piece of logic, but it's trapped in a bedroom.
That's a great way to put it.
The data scientist is like this world-class translator who just refuses to leave their apartment. They can translate any complex document perfectly, but you have to slide the paper under their door, wait for them to do the work, and then wait for them to slide it back out.
This is exactly what is happening. Nobody else in the building can touch it. Honestly, nobody else even knows how the environment is configured.
And the deliverable for this highly advanced, mathematically complex AI project ends up being, wait for it, a slide deck.
Another slide deck.
The data scientist puts some charts in a PowerPoint to show the C-suite how accurate the model could be. But the model has no surface.
Right, no interface.
Exactly. It has no user interface.
Yeah.
It is a report of an experiment. It's not a functional product.
So what happens when the CCO actually needs an answer during that Monday morning review?
Chaos, I imagine.
Let's say they ask a question about cutting cold brew prices in the Midwest. The stakeholder has to ping the data scientist on Slack.
Assuming they're even online.
Right. Then the data scientist has to drop what they're doing, open their laptop, manually adjust the parameters in their local Python notebook, wait for it to process.
Take a screenshot.
Take a screenshot of the new output graph and send that screenshot back on Slack, usually like 2 days later.
It's completely antithetical to the concept of agility. I mean, the model is trapped in a bottleneck of human intervention.
This is exactly where AI projects go to die.
The graveyard.
The data island graveyard. Because the handoff from a localized experiment to a living, breathing enterprise system is just an operational void.
Right.
The data scientist's job is technically done when the model is mathematically accurate. They want to move on to the next hard math problem.
Which makes sense for them.
Sure, but nobody in the organization was ever assigned to own that entire journey from the mathematical model to the end user's web browser.
So the team just moves on to the next shiny project.
Yep, and the model just sits there on a hard drive, undeployed, waiting to rot.
Okay, so if the dashboard industrial complex is a trap and these localized AI models are dying in the data island graveyard because they lack a surface,
Mhm.
how do we actually fix the operational reality for the C-suite?
Well, the sources give us a very clear, uncompromising directive.
Which is?
Stop presenting results and start shipping products.
Stop presenting results and start shipping products. I love that.
It is the pivotal shift in mindset required to fix this. It's the realization that a static answer in a PowerPoint presentation is fundamentally less valuable than a dynamic tool that generates answers on demand.
There's a specific insight from the MLOps, that's Machine Learning Operations memo, that really stood out to me
Or
here.
about the URL.
Yes. It argues that a simple link changes everything. Handing a stakeholder a URL instead of a slide deck immediately and fundamentally shifts the psychology of the entire conversation.
Let's explore why that psychological shift happens.
Yeah, please.
If I come to you as a data scientist with a slide deck, and I show you a chart of predicted sales based on a 10% price cut, I am making an assertion.
You're telling me a fact.
I'm essentially saying, trust my math. But stakeholders simply do not trust what they cannot interact with.
Why should they?
Exactly. No matter how good the math is, a static chart is just someone else's interpretation. It's basically a black box wrapped up in corporate formatting.
It's like I'm pointing at a picture of a sports car and telling you how fast it goes.
Right.
You just have to take my word for it. But if I give you a URL, a user interface, where you can input your own parameters.
Now you're driving.
Right. What if we increase media spend by 10%? What if a competitor slashes their prices? What if a supply chain strike hits our main distributor? That is me handing you the keys to drive the car yourself.
And the moment they have those keys, the trust barrier just evaporates.
You can feel it working.
They can test the boundaries of the logic. They can try to break it with weird inputs and see if the system responds logically.
And that completely changes the dynamic.
Instantly. The conversation stops being, can you run this scenario for me by Friday? And it becomes, how do we scale this capability across the entire enterprise right now?
But, and I want to be very clear about this, what does it actually take to hand over those keys?
It's not easy.
No. Taking that Python notebook, that local experiment on the data scientist's machine, and turning it into a production-grade URL is heavy lifting. As an engineering pragmatist, I can tell you it is not just clicking a publish to cloud button.
Far from it. The text outlines the brutal realities of production AI, and it is a completely different discipline than data science.
It really is.
It requires deep software engineering. First, it means rewriting the raw math into modular, maintainable code.
Because if...
Exactly, you need stability. Then it means establishing strict API contracts.
Let's define that because it's so crucial.
Go for it.
An API contract is essentially the universal translator. It is the agreed-upon set of rules that allows the complex math sitting on a server somewhere to speak seamlessly to the CCO's web browser in real time.
Right.
Without an API, the model is basically deaf and mute to the rest of the company.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. It requires secure cloud deployment so only the authorized people have access to sensitive commercial data.
You don't want interns adjusting the national supply chain.
Definitely not. And crucially, it requires constant automated monitoring for something called model drift.
Oh, model drift is fascinating. Let's dig into that.
It's a massive issue. Let's say your cold brew sales model was perfectly accurate all spring.
Yeah.
But suddenly, a massive unseasonal heat wave hits the entire country.
Yeah.
Or, a competitor's iced coffee goes incredibly viral on TikTok.
So the whole market shifts overnight.
Exactly. The real-world data starts behaving very differently than the historical data the model was originally trained on.
So the model gets confused.
Yes. Its accuracy plummets, and its predictions actually becomes dangerous.
Wow. And if the model is just a localized notebook, nobody knows it has drifted until the business loses millions of dollars making bad bets.
You wouldn't find out until the quarter is over. But in a true production environment, you have automated retraining pipelines.
How does that work?
The system recognizes the drift, triggers an alert, and automatically retrains the algorithm on the new real-world data to maintain its accuracy.
That's incredible.
It is, but building that architecture takes weeks of deeply focused software engineering.
So our definition of the word ready has to fundamentally change.
Yes.
Ready cannot mean a Python script that works perfectly on one laptop. Ready must mean an API serving predictions in real time, wrapped in a user interface, and owned by a dedicated product manager or engineering team long after the original data scientist has moved on to their next algorithmic challenge.
That is the only way a model survives in the wild. It has to graduate from being a science experiment to being actual enterprise software.
So how does this technological shift fundamentally change the day-to-day reality of our chief commercial officer?
It changes everything.
Let's bring this back to that CPG leader sitting in the Monday morning review, waiting for a spreadsheet while the market shifts. How does moving from presenting results to shipping products cure the disconnected reality?
It leads to what the sources refer to as the Borion shift.
The Borion shifts.
Yes, it's the transition to integrated decision systems. The goal is no longer building another sales dashboard.
Right.
It is no longer commissioning another stale consulting deck. And it is certainly not funding another isolated AI demo that no one can touch.
So what is the goal?
The goal is taking all those fragmented signals from the data island graveyard and wiring them into one unified decision-making capability.
Let's look at how this integrated system actually functions for our cold brew coffee launch.
Mm.
Instead of the CCO manually flying around to collect the ingredients, the system pulls in the market signals automatically.
Right.
It grabs retail POS data in real time. It integrates hyper-local demand patterns. It maps store segmentation.
It brings it all together.
Yeah, it layers in measurement logic to see if the TikTok ad spend is actually converting to sales. And crucially, it includes business constraints, like the fact that the Chicago warehouse only has a 2-week supply of glass bottles left.
And by connecting all those signals via APIs into a single user interface, the system entirely removes the manual cognitive load from the leader.
They aren't building pivot tables anymore.
No. They are no longer assembling the data, they are interrogating the data. They can finally just ask the critical questions instantly, literally at the speed of thought.
The sources list the exact questions this integrated system is built to answer on demand.
Like what?
Things like, where is the real market opportunity right now? Which specific retail stores have the highest upside if we intervene with a promotion? Which products are underrepresented on the shelf relative to the actual consumer demand in a specific zip code?
Those are massive questions.
And this one, is our current media spend actually driving incremental sales? Or are we just taking credit for organic traffic that would have bought the coffee anyway?
That's the million-dollar question for marketing, and the ultimate question for any commercial leader. Where should the next dollar of activation go to maximize return?
Exactly.
If you have an integrated decision system, you are not waiting 2 days for a screenshot on Slack to answer that.
No.
You have a URL. You adjust the parameters on your tablet right there in the Monday morning meeting, and the system synthesizes the POS data, the media spend, and the supply chain constraints, and it tells you exactly where the next dollar belongs instantly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If we synthesize the ultimate takeaway for these memos, it comes down to a single concept, the execution gap.
The execution gap. Because speed is the absolute ultimate advantage in the modern market.
It really is.
The execution gap is the massive, basically insurmountable distance between two types of companies.
Let's break those down.
On one side, you have the team that can spot an emerging market opportunity, accurately measure what is currently working across their entire supply chain, and redirect their marketing resources in a matter of seconds.
And on the other side, you have the team that is still sitting around a conference table on a Monday morning, physically printing out 5 different Excel spreadsheets.
Waiting for a quarterly review deck to be finalized.
Right. And arguing over which dashboard is showing the true numbers.
The companies that successfully make this Borion shift, moving from fragmented analytics to integrated decision systems, are going to operate at a velocity that the manual analysis companies simply cannot comprehend.
Let alone compete with.
Exactly. They are moving from static reporting to continuous opportunity detection.
And they're moving from disconnected insights to capabilities that actually guide execution at a massive scale.
It's a totally different ballgame.
As we wrap up this deep dive, that is the massive shift we want you to take away. If you are relying on manual data assembly to run your business, you are already behind.
Way behind.
Stop waiting for dashboards. Stop accepting slide decks as deliverables for multi-million-dollar data science projects. Start demanding systems. Start demanding a URL.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, building on everything we have unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
Think about your own Monday morning review meetings. Think about the daily operational rhythm of your team. What is one specific, highly valuable signal in your business? One vital piece of data that absolutely should already be connected to your daily decision-making, but is currently stranded on an island?
That's a great question.
And more importantly, what is the true compounding cost to your business every single time you have to wait 2 days for someone to slide that data under the door?
A huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go find those disconnected signals, demand the keys to the car, and we will see you next time.